Good afternoon, and indeed it's a great pleasure to be here. Just as a matter of introduction, so I'm working in the legal department of the EBRD, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, mostly working on corporate governance, even if my title is financial law, and recently very much on state-owned enterprises. I also joined, together with Sarah, the work at the OECD, so I'm observer at the Working Party for State Privatization and Practices, and I really convinced that the guidelines are a very important tool to shape the direction, but also a very important tool for institutions as ours, because often we find ourselves in negotiating deals with other IFIs, and also for us, for international financial institutions, it's important to have a joint point on the map. And really the guidelines for us ensure what we consider really good practices. So, European Bank for Reconstruction, we are a bank. Of course, what we do investment. Just to give you some figures, we did 112 projects in Latvia for a cumulative investment 1.1 billion. Current portfolio is roughly 406 million. Similar figure for Estonia and slightly higher for Lithuania, where we have 131 projects and 1.6 billion in terms of cumulative investments. We love to see opportunities, and definitely SOEs offer great opportunities for investment, provided that, of course, the aim of the management, the aim of the state is aligned with the aim of my institution. And the current strategy for us essentially is shaped on three main directions: green transition, inclusive transition, and digital transition. So if companies share this interest, we are happy to consider the investment. The new guidelines of corporate governance of state-owned enterprises. What is different? What has changed? We just heard that, it's of course nomination, remuneration. I like to focus, maybe I will also take stock of what has been said before, but I would like to focus on chapter 7, on the new chapter, SOEs and sustainability. Just to elaborate on my thinking about that. But before getting there, let's have maybe a small historical excursus. So how it come that we arrived here? If we look at the OECD principle, so the G20 OECD principle of corporate governance, one of the 12 standard for sound financial system, so globally recognized, they were issued in 99. Why? Because there was a crisis. In 98, there was the Asian crisis, very much focused on corporate governance, and therefore the need to have strong standards for ensuring stability and soundness on financial system. They were revised in 2005. Why? Well, again, another crisis, another corporate governance crisis. I'm Italian, so we had Parmalat, very big fraud, but also we had Enron. So there was a need to revise the principles, so to ensure, a better adherence with the practices in place. 2015, again another crisis, financial crisis. In 2015, we all thought it was not a corporate governance crisis, but then we realized that corporate governance was really part of it. And then we finally arrived to 2023, 2024, and where is the crisis? There is no corporate governance crisis. Actually, we faced a crisis. We faced a big crisis with COVID. We faced a social crisis. And hence, I'm starting thinking, so does it mean that sustainability fit with governance, so that there is a link between governance and sustainability? Why sustainability has been put into the scene for corporate governance? But actually, this is not a novelty. Sustainability was always there. And the concept before sustainability, ESG, was essentially this concept in which three dimensions, often tangential from the business table, are really somehow tackled together. And why environmental and social and governance are together? We might have forgotten a bit of that, but I think that a reflection will help. And the way I see it, especially nowadays, is that if we really care about environmental and social, we will not be able to achieve it if we don't put a little bit of governance behind. For instance, we want to improve gender diversity in staff. What do? We need a policy. We need a function that is accountable for the policy. We need a reporting line. We need some sort of disclosure. This is governance. This is just governance. Governance for the target of gender. And the same applies to climate or to environment. How can you discuss climate risks if you don't have a risk department, if you don't have a risk book? So you need some bit of governance as a building block for the other components, so that governance becomes the enabler. It can also be the bottleneck, and often it is, but what we aim is that it becomes the enabler of change. Board. So what does it mean for the board, this new sustainability chapter? Well, I would concentrate on two things that I think that are, at least to me, the main one. The first is the ordinary historical approach to risk has changed. Historically, we have been measuring risk. By the way, I admire the Baltic situation because in my region, in the EBRD region, SOEs are not developed and dynamics are not developed as in Baltics. I'm not saying that here things are perfect. There is always space for improvement, but definitely we look at the Baltics like an example. Yeah. I would, again, as I said, I will not say that you're all doing perfectly, and we are all human, so we all make mistakes. But therefore, you know, often Baltics are a source of inspiration. So then this is important. So I was saying about risk. So historically, risk has been tackled, has been assessed in order to mitigate this. So essentially, if we go to the work of the board, I think that the key role of the board is about the strategic direction. What is strategic direction? It around the three main documents, three main issues: strategy, so the business vision; budget, the financial means to implement the strategy; and risk, because risk might occur, and therefore you need to have some source, some financing, some action to do in order to mitigate the risk, because you don't want the challenges impede you to achieve the strategy. Is the situation the same now? I would say that the crisis and the whole concept has asked us to do much more, to do something more. Instead of just limiting ourselves to mitigate risk, I think that the new exercise is how can we turn challenges into opportunities. And this, I guess, is the very big change that is required by the board. Of course, boards, they don't live in insulation. Boards, they don't live in a vacuum. They live between shareholders and management, as difficult as boards, often more difficult than boards. But here, and this is my second point, within this, I would say, very rigid structure, accountability structure, where management report to the board report to the shareholder, we need to take in consideration of another party, which are the stakeholders. As important as the shareholders. Because we have seen that, for instance, when customers boycott a product, then the company is in trouble. And how to do that? I think that everything starts with mapping, with the mapping of your stakeholders. I asked my team 2 weeks ago to do this exercise. So pick up your 60 most important stakeholders. And then you will see that not always there is a match. And I think it's important to align the vision of management, the vision of board, and the vision of shareholders. We said before, we heard before about the letter of expectation on who are our stakeholders. Once the stakeholders are identified, then let's do this materiality assessment, this double materiality assessment. Let's try to reflect on how the challenges that are coming out, and we are living in a world where every day there is a new challenge, how the challenge can be transformed in something, an opportunity. I make an example, and then I think my time is almost up. I make an example. I was working with an SOE, let's say in the Balkans, hydropower, hydropower generator, no risk department, so the risks were actually not seen or considered. And of course, being a hydropower generator, very much depending on water, on rain. And unless you know how to do the rain dance, there's very little you can do in order to control your business. We assisted the company with an investment, but we also assisted the company with the strategy. And two ideas came out in terms of strategy. One is, how about floating solar panels that we can put on the dam? Actually, solar panels, floating solar panels are much more effective because the water provides the cold, the temperature that allows panels to work better. And second, pumps to recycle the water at the bottom of the dam to bring it up, to be used when the energy is a low price or when there is a surplus, so that you actually recycle the pots. I'm not reinventing the wheel. I don't have the crystal ball. They are doing this already. The point is that the board never asked the question, and management was never challenged on how to do these things. And I think this is possibly my main message. Boards, so what has changed in board needs to ask the question, needs to put the brain under a different point of view. Risks are not there just to be mitigated, but to be transformed in opportunities. And there is a way to do that. This is our expectation as investor when we go to the company, when we want to discuss. And this is really, I think, what are the main lessons that come out from the OECD principle. Let me conclude, if I may, with two quick remarks based on what has been said so far. I'm starting with the nomination. Yes, I agree 100%. I'm using this matrix. We all want to have a well-functioning, diverse, and qualified board. It's difficult, though, when the board is made by two persons. I think you know who I'm referring to. Second one, independent. What is an independent director? And I agree that the definition of independence has been strengthened. But throughout the world, you see that independence is defined by negative terms, non-affiliation terms. Non-affiliation is not independence. There are two different concepts. Non-affiliation means lack of ties with management of the company. But I can be, my grandmother is the best independent person. No, she will not be able to express the independence because she does not have the qualification to do that. So this is where you need to focus for independence. Is the person up to the job? Is the person able to challenge? Is the mindset of the person able to convince managers, to face management, and to propose what an independent mind can do? Of course, there are hard competencies, soft competencies. Usually, many companies, independent board members are just a minority, and you don't want that independent is kept in a corner. So, along with the various expertise you mentioned, you need to have a negotiating skill, diplomatic skill, a lot of activities done by explaining and talking. Final comments. Really my final, I promised. There was a very interesting presentation about the situation in the Baltics. Especially, I'm talking about IPOs. At the EBRD, I worked on Port of Tallinn in Estonia, Enefit Green, still in Estonia. And I worked on Ignitis in Lithuania. Ignitis has been the largest IPOs in the Baltics, and they're still a success. We really hope to see soon some IPOs also in Latvia. Thank you.